Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Wendy Dillard here. Today is Wednesday, July the 11th, 2018, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, your second daily dose of happy for the day. And we hope your Wednesday has been going swimmingly well, like it has around here. Wendy was telling me before the show that her day's gone particularly swimmingly, so we'll be spending some time on that in just a few minutes. My day, I can't say I've been swimming so much as I've been dog paddling, but nevertheless, I'm not going down. That's the most important thing.
Well, that's just funny. You've been dog paddling.
I've been dog paddling, yes. But I've been dog paddling successfully. And I'm a cat person. How do you go figure? You know, there's nothing so sad as a cat that gets thrown in the water. You ever noticed how, I mean, they just don't like water at all. So, yeah.
Oh, I had to do water one time with one of my cats, and all I can tell you was not only was it a bad experience for her, but I had scratches up and down my arms. Oh, my gosh. I think I had to do a flea dip or something like that. It was bad.
Yeah, we had to do that when I was a kid. Yeah. So glad for the modern medicines that you pour it once into their neck and they're done for a month. No more flea baths. I'm so glad we don't have to do that anymore. See, there's something to celebrate right there. We don't have to do flea baths anymore.
May not be something many people are thinking about, but for those who are, you know, it's a good thing.
Well, I mean, we did the show yesterday about the Thai boys who got out of the cave, and I made the point then, and I still make it now. It's really important to celebrate all the good things that happen in life, and sometimes you have to think about what they are because they slide right past you. I mean, the idea we don't have to do a flea bath. Nobody even thinks about that anymore. But I remember what it was like. You remember what it was like, and you know when we noticed, like, yeah, we don't have to do that anymore. Oh, wow, what a relief that is. I mean, for the younger generation, millennials are saying, a flea bath? What the hell are they talking about? But let me tell you, you haven't lived until you've tried to give a flea bath to a cat who doesn't want to be bathed.
Yep, that's bad.
Oh, jeez. So, anyway, I've delayed the great news long enough. What was your amazing thing that happened today?
Well, I have, I think, 3 that I want to report.
Oh, okay.
One of them, I told you about the rain, where it's been so dry here that, you know, my poor grass is just like little brown sticks. And as much as I try to sprinkle on the restricted days of the 2 days only I'm allowed to do that, it's just not enough. And I remember Abraham saying, you know, if you want rain, if you desire rain from the place of, everything's so parched, we're in a drought, everything's bad, you're not going to get rain.
True.
But if you come from a place that's on a positive side, you will. So I was just kind of looking at my trees and just kind of saying, oh, I love it when my trees just are able to drink up the water and get their thirst quenched so that they can blossom. And I mean, I was just doing this happy little, you know, feel good the other day about how wonderful it is when the rain comes.
Nice.
And after a couple days, there hadn't been any rain. And so then I went, okay, you know what? I just kind of, again, looked at my trees and grass and I just said, rain, 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 a downpouring, drenching rain. That's what I want. And I knew I was coming from a positive place. And then I forgot about it and went away. And today I was on the phone talking with someone and I noticed that it had been thundering a little bit. And the next thing I knew, it was a downpour, a good 15-minute soaking downpour. And in that moment, I went, that's exactly what I asked for.
It was, yeah.
Exactly what I asked for. And I believe that I brought that about. Now, most likely, if we look at the news, it probably only happened in my area.
Probably, yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me at all, because that was even on my mind. Like, it doesn't have to even go everywhere. I just want it in my neighborhood.
And meanwhile, all the blades of grass in your lawn are going, party, party!
Yeah, exactly. They're like... Oh, yeah, they're drinking it up. And like in North Texas, we get a lot of flash floods, which is where it rains so hard, so quickly, it starts to flood our streets. And I would say the rain came down so fast, we didn't have enough of it for it to be a major flash flood, so it became a problem. But the alley had like torrents of rivers of water flowing through them.
Wow.
So when I say we had a downpour, we really had a downpour.
Yeah, apparently. Wow.
So that was my first wonderful piece of news.
Okay.
Which that may not mean anything to anyone else if they're still waiting for rain, But I did want to explain how the rain came.
Yeah, that makes a
Believe
difference.
it or not, I do believe it.
It does. Yeah, it does make a difference to do that. I have like 4 or 5 different stories with weather in the book, but those are just the ones that I remembered to write down. I mean, there are lots of times I've had experiences with weather. Yeah, yeah, we definitely influence it. It really just comes down to what you did, having the right mindset.
Absolutely. And so let's see. My second thing I wanted to share, I didn't even share with you before the show. It's a follow up to what you talked about on Friday, which at the time I just said it really blew my mind, and I knew it was really important for me to notice what happened and to really think on it. And it was about how you had a situation that had not been going the way you wanted it to for quite some time. But then one particular morning, as you had woken up and you were making breakfast, you wanted to visualize that situation going in the direction you wanted it to go.
Right.
And you said you took a deep breath, kind of got yourself centered, and then you just visualized the situation being done, and then you let go of it. And within no time at all, you said that person called you and said, "Oh, it's done."
Within a minute, actually, which was what really blew my mind. A
Oh my
minute,
gosh.
yeah.
A minute.
And for people who might have heard that and said, well, if you got the call the next minute, how could they have gotten it done that quickly? And the answer is the task wasn't actually all that long. It literally would have taken like 20 to 30 seconds to complete. So it was quite reasonable to get a call within a minute.
Well, and so I looked at that and went, there is something really significant in how to deliberately create based on what you did. And I kind of interviewed you and I asked you I asked some very poignant questions.
You did.
And what I recognized was that, yes, this was an issue for you. And I purposely call it an issue because it was something you weren't pleased with how it was happening and you wanted the resolve and it wasn't happening.
Very much.
But that you didn't bring any of those thoughts into your visualization that morning as you were making breakfast.
Exactly.
You just... And these are the words that I got the next day as I was pondering it. You were in a space of pure positive energy.
Yeah,
you dragged none of the negativity. It was all pure positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a decision, probably sometime over the weekend, that I was going to practice creating from a space of pure positive energy. Now, anyone listening may go, well, why is that unique or different? Because what I didn't realize until Walt told that story was how under the radar, in a really subtle way, when I would focus on something I deliberately wanted to create, I was unaware that I was dragging some of the negativity into my creation. And then kind of going, why is it not coming yet? Because I was not aware that I was dragging some of that negativity.
Which is so easy to do, by the way. It's really easy to do that without noticing it.
And that's what I realized had happened. So now I have my attention on pure positive energy. I want to focus in a way that it's coming from pure positive, feel-good energy. And I'm just leaving all the resistance and all the garbage behind. That's kind of like my new place that I want to practice is I'm leaving all the garbage behind because it's in the past.
Cool.
And I want to be in the now, creating from a place of pure positive energy. So what I've noticed the last couple nights, as is my habit, I usually wake up about twice during the night to use the restroom. And then, I can fall back asleep like in no time at all. But something I've had as a practice for a long time is, hey, as long as I'm just waking up, I know I'm in a place of really good energy. So I kind of have a habit of what do I want to think about? Now, granted, it takes me all of 3 minutes to get up, go to the bathroom, and come back. But I look at it like, why not use that 3 minutes for something
sure.
good?
Why not? Yeah. I agree with you. I do the same thing.
So the last couple days, instead of deciding this is what I'm going to think about, I've been kind of asking my inner being, like, what would be good to focus on right now? And and today it was so pronounced that now it's like worthy of conversation. I realized that my inner being was flowing ideas to me to focus on
Wow.
that were so pure and positive, I'd never thought of them before. Now they're all in my Project X building a new career sphere,
Mm-hmm.
but it was so much like what you were talking about that when you were visualizing, you were seeing it, but feeling it done. You were in the feel good space of it being done.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the one of them that came to mind, I remember the word exciting was in it, which we know that's one of my happy words. But I was talking about how I want to wake up excited every morning because what I'm doing is so fun and just filled with delight. And it's something I'm passionate about. And you know what, even as I say it, these are not even the juiciness of the words that I had when I was doing my 3-minute walk back and forth. But what I realized was I've asked for it. I'm now vibrating to these really wonderful, feel good, pure positive energy places. And then I just go back to sleep. And it's like, I had such an awareness that the last couple nights has made such a huge dent, if you will, in moving me forward. And to add to that, because this still has to do with the inspiration I got from what you talked about on Friday, when I have been in a wake state and I'm thinking about my new career, and I start to notice I'm dragging, but what if, and this isn't happening, and what should I do? The moment I have that awareness, I've been saying to myself, that's old news. That's old news. That was then. This is now. Because what I know now is that it's on its way. It's already done. I'm lining up as I speak, and I just start doing my own personal rampage of how awesome it is because everything I want is coming to pass.
Good for you. Oh.
And I'm like, this feels way better, which
doesn't
leads
it?
into my third one,
okay,
which is, I guess it was last week, I had somebody reach out. She had seen my website. She said she was an Abraham Hicks fan, totally resonated with what I had written on my website and wanted to have the free consultation. And so it took us almost a week just to coordinate calendars. And so our call was today.
Okay.
And during the call, that's when the rain happened. So that, of course, was a good feel good while I'm having the call with her.
Right, yeah.
But before I called her, I just had a knowing she's going to want to become a client. And I knew I have right now 3 different packages, and I knew exactly which one she'd want.
Wow.
And so while we were talking, we got to the point where she's like, okay, how do we do this? And I said, okay, well, here are the 3 packages. She picked the one that I knew she would want. And I said, well, while we're talking on the phone, let me go find something. And I went and found the link to my payment. And I said, so here's the deal. I'm going to send it to you right now in email. Then I'll shut up. I'll let you fill in your credit card information. And then as soon as you're done, we'll set up your first appointment. She went, great. So we did that. So of course I was happy, new client. But here's the other thing. I love how responsive the law of attraction is. She's normally people do one session, which is 1 hour, because that's what my website says. That's kind of typical for coaching. Mm-hmm. And she said, I'd really like to have a 2-hour session. Is that okay? And I said, sure. Now, here's where she didn't know this, but this is what I'm going to share with you and our listening audience, is when I was working with a client last night, our session went over, which it usually does. And I thought to myself, while the session's going over, I can feel my client's energy like, oh, I better hurry up because I'm already into overtime. And she's not paying for it, and I never have charged for extra time. But I'm also feeling that, oh, we really need to hurry up. And the more we do that, of course, the more conversation we have.
Of course, yes.
And the thought came to me, you know what? What if I do something completely different? What if instead of making every session an hour, because I got to tell you, the last 20 minutes of our conversation last night was probably the most valuable of the whole call. which is ironic. But I thought, what if I sell packages based on a number of hours of session time and people just used it any way they want?
Oh.
And so, like my client last night would have used up, let's say, an hour and 20 minutes out of her bank of 20 packages purchased. And then when I was having a coaching call with my friend Rhonda, and when I say coaching call, we're friends and we happen to coach each other when it comes up in conversation, we talked for almost 4 hours on Sunday. And the week before, we talked for almost 3 hours. And we were both getting this sense of how valuable it was to be able to let the conversation keep going instead of having a hard stop time and then cutting it off in the middle of the flow. Now, granted, I know that, I have to think about how to do this new model because I can't go on forever and ever if I have other calls scheduled, but for the same day. But I rarely do if I do back to back, I always have an hour off.
Which makes sense. Yeah, you want to give yourself a little bit of a break so you can be fresh for the new person.
Exactly. But I thought, this is cool. And she said, yeah, I think I'm going to do an offering where people can book like a half-day session. And I went, I'm thinking that might be cool too. But then I wasn't sure about that. But I thought, you know what? If someone buys a package based on a number of hours and we just use up however much we use up and we just kind of let the flow happen, then neither one of us has to think about time. So that was the idea that I had. But what was so cool is how I had just had that thought. I got off the phone with my client like at 9:20 last night. And here I am this afternoon with a new client who says, could I have 2 hours? I really do well in 2-hour chunks. And I'm like, okay. So it was like law of attraction was not only responding with what I'd focused on, but it's also a validation of, yeah, people want that. Because that was one of my thoughts is, would people want to do that? And I guess the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Wow. So you got a triple win out of this.
Well, yeah. And, I'm just relaying all these things that I'm aware of how I had a thought and law of attraction responded. I think it was this morning, I was thinking about my new merchant account and how if you go X amount of months without having any purchases, they cut you off. Well, I've only been with them for I'm into month 3, but I hadn't had any new purchases yet in July. And my first thought was, oh no, I only have 2.5 weeks to get another purchase in, or to get a new client so that it will satisfy my sense of I want to have a purchase at least once a month with my merchant account. And as I felt me cutting myself off, due to cutting myself off from my alignment to happiness because I was like, oh no, what if? I went, oh heck no, of course I'll get a client this month. I'll never have a month go by without somebody purchasing. That's just kind of the intention I had. And that was just like this morning. And then poof, I got to use my merchant account today to charge something. And I'm like, again, I just had the thought, law of attraction responded. How cool is that?
These are really good examples because every single one of them shows how, how you had some level of resistance that you weren't necessarily aware of, but it became evident to you. You let it go, and all of a sudden, you got a result you've been waiting for. I mean, it's a very consistent pattern. It's terrific. It's a great way of illustrating how it's all about letting go of the resistance. It's about the allowing.
Absolutely. It's so fun. And because I started doing this on the show recently, where I've been talking about how law of attraction is so responsive. I think I was saying that during a show last week, and I said it over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that after the show, because I had said it so many times, it caused me to start focusing on look how responsive the law of attraction is.
Yeah.
And so I believe I'm now aware to a much more heightened level of how law of attraction is actually responding to things that I'm thinking about.
And isn't that the way it works? Yeah, isn't that the way? That's what so many people teach. They teach the idea if you want for instance, to learn, how quickly the law of attraction works, ask for it. And you did. And you got it. You got exactly what you asked for. You got the information. And you got it in a way that was really easy for you to absorb and kind of internalize. And it also produced some really fun results for you. So you got like a double win there just from that. Very, very good.
Well, and lots of time, like I know in the book that you had talked about E squared.
Right.
Both. I know that Cindy had done one of the experiments where, it was like think about something specific and, watch it show up that day.
Yep.
And I totally think that, having these exercises are really cool. But what I really liked for me is I was just living life. I wasn't setting up an experiment. I wasn't setting up a special exercise. I had focused on law of attraction is really responsive. That is so cool.
It is.
And I've had this, all of these things show up in a short period of time as evidence of how law of attraction is so responsive. And I'm just digging it.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. In fact, we're also hoping that our listeners are digging it so much that if you're somebody who is not yet a subscriber, you will take the time to subscribe so you can get more of this stuff, because we're sharing these stories all the time. I mean, virtually every single podcast episode, some story that happened recently in the life of one or both of the co-hosts gets told as a story. And by hearing it, you're getting one more reinforcement every single time about, yeah, this stuff really works. Yeah, this stuff really works. Hey, guess what? This stuff really works.
Hey, Walt, did you know that this stuff really works?
Does it really? Wow.
It's what I've been told. It's what I've heard. Oh, it's what I've lived and experienced.
So anyway, in order to get your subscription, if you're not a subscriber, very easy to do. Just go to the homepage of the website, loatoday.net. Right on the homepage is all the instructions. It takes about a minute to do. It's free. We don't charge you anything for it. And when you're done, all the episodes come streaming right to your device, your Android, your iPhone, your tablet, whatever you're using. And you can just play them anytime you want to. That's the beauty of a podcast. So please take a moment to subscribe. And when you're done, hit one of the social media share buttons and share with friends that, hey, I just subscribed to LOA Today. You ought to consider doing it too.
And you know what else? If any of our listeners have not yet gotten a copy of the book that we put together from our co-hosts as well as other coaching authors, it's called Your Daily Dose of Happy. It's purchasable really easily, either in ebook form or paperback form from Amazon. And all of that information is on our front page for loatoday.net.
It is. There's a link that takes you right to it, so you can purchase the book and get to reading right away. And the feedback we get from people is that they like the stories. They're good stories. Well, although, interestingly, I'm still looking for our first review. Nobody has actually taken the time to leave a review. We're getting all this good feedback on it, but nobody's actually left a review. So if you've been reading the stories and you haven't left a review on Amazon, do us a favor. Give us a 5-star review. Let's get the ball rolling.
And I'll be honest, Walt, the book is big, and it's so, I haven't even finished reading the entire book yet. I've read a lot of it, but not all of it. And I'm the kind of person who I would want to do a review once I have completed the book.
Oh, sure.
So my guess is that people just haven't completed it. But if you've completed it or read enough that you really like something, or if a certain chapter really spoke to you, go ahead and write a review and say, I really like this particular chapter.
Yeah.
Especially if it's one of Wendy Dillard's chapters.
Yeah, there you go. Little self-promo.
Really
I love
spoke
it.
To me. I've got 3 chapters in there.
That's funny. Well, yeah, there are 55 stories in the book, over 400 pages. So, yeah, I can totally get the idea. People are still working their way through it. Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I'm looking forward to the day when we start getting those reviews, because I know they're going to be good.
Cool.
So anyway, we are talking about the law of attraction, the basics of the teachings of Abraham. We've been working through this book now for a few months, and we are in part 5, which is about segment intending, which we started, I don't know, what was it, about a week and a half ago, something like that? Mm-hmm. We're up to a subtopic, an example of a day of segment intending. And I particularly like this topic because most often when we're talking about different modalities, different practices to do, we talk about, well, this is what you do, and we just kind of leave it at that. Or we might talk about, no, this is what I did. But it isn't very often we get the opportunity to find out okay, well, how are you going to actually apply it throughout the day? I mean, most of us think of something like, doing affirmations or vision boards or, thinking about positive things or telling positive stories or whatever, or just doing, getting out and getting exercise and enjoying nature, whatever it might be. We think of that as something that you do once. We don't really think about these things mostly as things that we do throughout the day. And yet, that's really what's intended for most of these modalities. So to have one described here where they're describing what you're going to do throughout your day, I really like that a lot. I just wanted to say that. So let's see. Am I reading today or are you reading today?
No, you keep reading.
Okay. So this is what Abraham has to say. They say, here is an example of a day in which you are not only aware of each new segment that you are moving into, but you are also setting forth your intentions for each segment. Let us say that you are beginning this process at the end of this day before you go to sleep. Recognize that entering into the sleep state will be a new segment of life experience. And so as you are lying there with your head on the pillow, getting ready to go to sleep, set forth your intention for that time. For example, it is my intention for my body to completely relax. It is my intention to awaken, rested, refreshed, and eager to begin my new day. And then the next morning, as you open your eyes, recognize that you have now entered into a new segment of life experience, and that the time you remain in bed until the time you remove yourself from the bed is a segment. Set forth your intent for that time. While I'm lying here in my bed, I'm intending to have a clear picture of this day. I'm intending to become exhilarated and excited about this day. And then as you are lying there in the bed, you will feel that refreshment and that exuberance for the day coming upon you. Wendy, when you were talking about our conversation last Friday and where I just, without any resistance, just put out my intention, and you described how when you were doing your intention, you got really excited about it. That's what they're describing here. They're talking about the exhilaration. They're talking about getting excited about this vision of having a clear picture of a great day ahead. So there it is in black and white. As you get out of bed, you have entered into another new segment of life experience. This may be the segment in which you are, preparing yourself for the day. And so as you are entering the segment of brushing your teeth and taking your bath, let your intent be, I intend to acknowledge my wonderful body and to feel appreciation for the magnificent way it functions. I intend to be efficient in my grooming and to bring myself to looking my best. Notice that none of it's really complex stuff. It's just, this is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. It's very straightforward. It's just deliberate. It's a deliberate approach that we don't normally do, and that's what makes it different.
And it certainly doesn't mean you have to use these words as they said it. They're giving examples,
Exactly.
But I like them.
They're good.
Especially if you're in the grooming part or you're in the shower or the bath or whatever, taking time to really appreciate your body. I mean, I don't think we appreciate our bodies often enough, so that would be a great time to do it.
I mean, I look back on my, earlier days in my life, times when I've awakened, and what was I focusing on? Oh, geez, I got to deal with the boss today. That was the way I was intending the rest of the day, which is not a really good way to intend the day.
Oh, and speaking of which, I was aware, I've been at the company that I'm at now for 11 years, and I became aware that every morning when I had the awareness that I'm now awake, I literally had a visual of my boss's face in front of me.
Really?
Every single morning. Yeah. Talk about an unpleasant way to start the day.
Yeah.
Now, if you adore your boss, that's cool, but I was not adoring him. It was always this sense of like this glooming presence literally hovering over me. And then I got a new boss.
The ghost of business yet to come.
Yeah, and then it was kind of like I was aware that the old boss's face was no longer there when I woke up in the morning. But then the longer I worked with my new boss, I noticed that my new boss's face started showing up in the morning. Like literally, I'm lying on my back and my eyes are still closed, but yet I have a visualization of my boss's face in front of me. And I went, this is really disconcerting. And I'm like, I don't really know how it got there. But I remember one morning as I'm staring at my boss's face in front of me with my eyes still closed, I went, okay, what if I move him? So I kind of moved him a little to the right. I went, how about a little bit more? A little bit more. And I was in my mind's eye moving him until he was no longer directly in front of me, and he was so much to the side of me that I couldn't see him unless I looked in that direction. And that's where I left him. And do you know, from that day forward, when I woke up, he was not staring in front of me.
Well, good.
And so I have no idea why his presence or the image I created of him would be in front of me, but that's where it was, and that's how I moved it out of the way. And then I got another new boss. I mean, in 11 years, I've only had 3. I got another new boss, and I had this very distinct intention. He will not hover in front of me.
Good.
And before I could even have it just sneak up upon me, I put him over there where the other boss was, over to the side.
We got bosses piling up over on the side here.
I know, but I just found it fascinating because you said you woke up and your first thought was, I've got to go to work for that man or whomever the boss was.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of had a similar thing, and I wonder if other people do that, or if you and I are just bizarre anomalies.
Well, I mean, in one way, you are a bizarre anomaly compared to me, because I don't have that kind of visual power of having my boss's face in front of me and then I move him over to the side and he stays there. I mean, I'm lucky if I can retain an image for 5 seconds at all. And if I were to try to move him aside, the good news is he just kind of disappears. He just goes away because I don't see it. And then I found another even better way to do it is to become self-employed, because that way you don't have a boss. You're your own boss.
This is true.
And then you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing the real boss pointing, looking back at you.
Well, I do think that it just in hindsight, the fact that my boss's face was represented as a visualization in front of me so close in front of me, that was also representing how I thought about him.
Sure.
That he was always like breathing down my neck kind of thing,
And when you were done with him, he was breathing down the stage manager's neck. It wasn't you. Which is very cool.
Yes.
So anyway.
Okay, so I stopped us in the middle of our paragraph, so now we're on the as you are preparing.
Right. So now we're done with that segment. We're moving on to the next one. As you're preparing your breakfast, let your intent for this segment be, I will select and prepare this wonderful, nutritious food efficiently. Now, I have to say, I would never say that. But I'd probably say, I'm going to enjoy this meal. I'd keep it simple, And by the way, I really like this meal that I'm having. You know how I know I like it? Because I have it every day, because I like it so much. I'm not terribly creative. I don't create the same, different kinds of meals every day for breakfast. It's always the same one. But I love it, so who cares? It doesn't matter. The main thing is I enjoy it. And that's the way I kind of try to talk to myself. In fact, I have gotten to the point now, I'm doing this parenthetically, obviously, but I've gotten to the point now with segment intending where I now recognize when I'm going off the rails. And I'm thinking to myself, I really should have done a little intending on this segment instead of going off on that rail. I think I'll just kind of, reverse course here and take it all back and go back to, I'm going to enjoy this meal. This is a great meal. I love this. Distract myself from that bad track I was going on. That's my point. So it says, let's see, where are we?
Well, we'll start with the beginning of you would intend this segment to be.
Where am I?
Select.
I don't see it. You're going to have to read it because I'm not finding it.
Okay. So as you're preparing your breakfast, let your intent for this segment be.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
I will select and prepare this wonderful, nutritious food efficiently. I will relax and eat it in joy, allowing my wonderful body to digest and process it perfectly. I will choose the food that is best for my physical body at this point in time. I will replenish and refresh. I will be replenished and refreshed by this food. And as you set forth this intention, you will notice that you will notice that as you are eating, you are feeling yourself more rejuvenated, replenished, and refreshed. And you will enjoy the food more and you will enjoy the food more than if you had not set forth that intent to do so.
And that's true, by the way. That actually is true. I found that when I put, maybe not the way they're wording it, but when I put an intention in that I'm going to enjoy the food, I really do. It tastes better. I mean, the flavor is stronger. And I think it's because I'm just focusing on it, but literally the flavor, it becomes more intense because of that focus.
I think that's a segment, as you started reading it, And while you were talking, the thought came to me that this is something that would really benefit me. In other words, there's all sorts of segments in the day, and I had actually done enough segment intending that many pieces and parts of my day just kind of run very smoothly. But I haven't really done this on the meal time with my new beliefs about food.
Oh, really?
Because my old beliefs had me feeling guilty pretty much every time I put anything in my mouth, or whether I didn't put something in my mouth.
Yeah, not
I had
ideal.
so much guilt. Yeah, because I had so many food rules. Well, now that I don't have food rules, I feel like it would really benefit me if before I eat, I do a segment intention so that I could create a momentum that each time I eat, whatever intentions I'm setting will just kind of be laid out for me going forward. Because that's what we read a couple days ago about segment intending, is that when you start to begin doing segment intending over a certain type of activity, it's not like you're just doing it once and it's only good for that one time, and law of attraction now expires it and can never be done again. It's like, no, it actually builds momentum.
That's true.
That if every single time you get in your car and you do an intention of the traffic will move smoothly, blah, 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 that if you do that enough times, eventually that intention is actually set kind of like forevermore on you're getting in your car and going somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm thinking this would really be awesome for me when it comes to eating.
It is. I mean, that's the experience that I had. I said that I have one breakfast that I have every day, and that's sort of true. I do kind of mix it up a little bit. But lately, the thing I've really had a lot of is blueberry pancakes. And the interesting thing is, when you segment and tend on something like blueberry pancakes, which I really like, it gets to the point where you have the pancake in front of you, and you're taking a bite, and you're savoring every bite because of all the intending you've been doing. So it really enhances the entire experience. And the funny part is,
well, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool. It's really cool, and it works with any food. It doesn't matter what the food is. It's the focus that does it and the intention that does it. And when you, like you say, it builds a momentum over time. And as that momentum builds, it gets to the point where it's a sensual experience in a huge way. And the funny thing is, it turns out you don't really need to eat a lot of it. You just want to have the sensual experience. And once you've got, it's like, oh, good, I had my sensual experience for the day.
Well, and ever since I no longer eat with guilt and I don't live by food rules anymore, it's kind of been I'll just call it a hit or miss experience, where there's sometimes I eat and it's like, oh my God, this is the most delicious, delectable food.
Isn't that nice?
And it's like orgasmic. It just tastes so yummy.
I love that.
And then I had an experience the other day where I was hungry and I ate something, and I was very aware when I was done that my body was full, as in like I didn't want to eat anything more, but what I ate was very unsatisfying. And my old Wendy would have gone and found something else to eat, even though I was already plenty full, because I wanted to get that emotional satisfaction piece.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
And so it was so cool to me because I did have the awareness. I am not satisfied from a flavor perspective or an emotional perspective. That was not satisfying eating. But I do know my body is like, please don't eat anymore, because then it will really be miserable. There was enough, you put enough food in.
Yeah.
And so then I asked a question I don't think I've ever asked before. I mean, who hasn't done that, right? You're not satisfied, but you're full, so you stop eating.
Oh, yeah.
But I asked the question, so what do I do? What do I do? Because I'm left with this unsatisfied feeling. And I kind of had the guidance that I was sensing was just notice it. Just notice what it feels like to be full, and notice what it feels like to not be satisfied. Just notice it. And this will pass. Because I was a couple hours away from going to bed, and I just had the knowledge that don't eat anything more before you go to bed. The food will digest during your sleep, and tomorrow is a fresh day. But just for right now, just notice it. But what was so unique about that situation is because I had the guidance to just notice it, it has stuck with me. I mean, how many times have you eaten a meal and you have no idea what you ate yesterday? It came, it went, and you've moved on.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But that eating experience has stuck with me because it was very impactful. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with it, but I just know I'm supposed to notice it, so I am.
You're doing it very well.
Even as I tell it now, it's like, I almost feel as though that was a precursor to what I'm now intending to do, which is start to do some segment intending around my meals.
Oh yeah, sure. That's the setup. That's really the motivation behind doing the segment intending, so that you can get a different experience going forward.
Yeah, because I know what I want to experience. So my segment intending will go something like, as I choose to eat, I will be selective about what I want to put into my body. Because I want to eat foods that will be satisfying to my taste buds, satisfying to create this sensual experience where it just feels good to eat this food. And it's satisfying, as well as it's filling. And then I come to a point where when I know my body's full, I want to stop. And then I'll be able to stop easily. Ooh, here's the piece that just came to me. Because the satisfaction emotionally will have been so taken care of, I will not want to eat more because that piece will have already been handled. Now, cool. That may not be cool for other people, but as a person who's been overweight all my life, having the emotional satisfaction taken care of, I don't need to eat when I've got emotional satisfaction. I can eat and be done.
That's a pretty big deal.
It's an important segment or an important piece that I add to my segment intending.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal right there. It really is.
Wow. And honestly, Walt, I'd never thought in a million years that I could actually use a segment intending process to build into my my senses, my physical senses of satisfaction, that I could use segment intending to actually bring satisfaction into my being that way.
Well, congratulations! You found a way to apply the concept in a way you hadn't found before. That's a breakthrough. Right. That's great.
Yeah. So when I say I'm looking forward to dinner tonight, it's on a whole new level.
Right. Sure.
Because I will segment. I've actually already begun segment intending just through the commentary that I've had during this podcast.
Well, Louise actually was doing some earlier. I don't think she really thought of it as segment intending, but it's exactly what she was doing. We had a meeting at the office for all the staff, and at the conclusion of the meeting, I was winding things up, and I was answering questions, technical questions for people who needed to know, various things about the apps we use and so forth. And then as I'm getting ready to go, she says to me, "Now, be ready to go out. I want wings right after the podcast. So as soon as the podcast is over, we're leaving, okay?" I said, "Yep, absolutely." So she's at segment intending the entire meal before we even have gotten in the car to go to the restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool,
she does that a lot.
Cool.
She does that a lot. And I have to say, doing it that way, I mean, it's not something I do. She's always the one who does that. I never really think that far ahead about food. For me, I'm doing it more along the lines of what they say in the book. When you're getting ready to do the activity, then I do my intending. But with food, she'll think, I mean, she's the kind of person who we're eating lunch and the first thought that comes out of her mouth is, let's see, what are we going to have for dinner? she's just food-wise thinking that far ahead. And the net result is when you do that, the food does taste better. Now, it also helps that I have a wife who knows how to cook well. That was a huge improvement all by itself. But the food really does taste better. When you have that level of pre-paving, it tastes better. It gets better and better over time. And you notice it more.
I agree.
There are even times where, I mean, I'm like everybody else. There are times where I just wolf it down. I'm so hungry and I don't even think about it. Like, boy, that went down real fast. What did I just eat? I've done that too. But more of the time, I'm taking a bite out of the steak and saying, whoa, this tastes delicious. And Louise and I are looking at each other like, wow, this is really good steak. Well, it's not just that the steak is good. It's that we're pre-paved. We're ready for it.
That reminds me of the time when my ex-husband and we went to dinner at this 5-star restaurant. It was an Easter buffet. And we had both ordered sirloin steaks and I think garlic mashed potatoes and broccoli and something like that. And the steaks get delivered to our table. And the waiter says, and the waiter says, would you cut into your steak to make sure it's cooked to your perfection?
Oh,
it
wow.
was. And the waiter walks away. And I looked around the table, and my husband says, what are you looking at? And I said, I'm looking for the A1 sauce. And he says, Wendy, at this kind of restaurant, I promise you're not going to need A1 sauce. And I went, really? And so we cut into the steak, and we both take a bite, and we look at each other and went, oh, my God, this is so good. And literally the next words out of my mouth is this what steak is supposed to taste like? It was so good. And he went, I told you wouldn't need A1. I went, this is so good. I'm like, okay, we're paying an arm and a leg for it, but it's worth it. It's so good. And I'll tell you, that spoiled me for steak ever since, because it's like unless it tasted like it did at that restaurant, it's not steak.
I agree with you. That we're rather picky. Louise in particular is very picky about where we'll eat, particularly eating steak. And well, first of all, I will never put A1 on a steak anyway. I just detest the flavor of it. But even if I did like it, we would never go to a restaurant where the steak was so poor it would require A1 sauce. We just wouldn't even allow ourselves to go there.
So, yeah, I know the taste of really good, yummy, deliciousness kind of flavors. And I realized that sometimes it costs a little bit more to have that level of deliciousness.
Well, now add in your segment intending, and I tell you, you're going to be on the floor. You're going to be just so satisfied with the flavor.
Well, that'll add movement to my life. I'll have to bed down and get on the floor and roll around and get back up.
That's
and
cool.
And now we did exercises for the day as well.
It's low impact diet aerobics.
And what do you call that exercise? The get off the floor
exercise? The get off the floor exercise, right?
All right, we'll keep reading and let's see what the next segment's all about.
Well, somehow we seem to have gotten into an automobile. So, okay, we just finished doing the food and enjoying the food. Now, as you get into your automobile and are traveling to your destination, let your intent in this segment be to travel from one place to another in safety. That's one of David's favorite things, by the way. David Barkey, who I do the Sunday show with, whenever we start off with good things that happen, wins. Inevitably, he says, well, all of my travel this week was safe and productive, and I got where I wanted to go without any incident. That's a big thing for him. That's really important. Yeah.
So whether he's done it purposefully or not, he has segment intended so that he would always have safe travel.
And he celebrates it. He thinks it's important to celebrate it. I got to give him credit for that. That's very good. So anyway, you travel from one place to another in safety, and to feel invigorated and happy as you're moving forth, and be aware of what the other drivers are intending or not intending, so that you may move through traffic in a state of flow, safe and efficient. When you get out of your automobile, you have now entered into a new segment. What a surprise. And so pause for a moment and imagine yourself walking from where you are to where you intend to go. See yourself feeling good as you walk. Intend that you will move efficiently and safely from point to point. Intend to breathe deeply as you feel the vitality of your body, and intend to feel the clarity of your thinking mechanism. Your thinking mechanism? I just call it the mind, but well, whatever. Set forth your vision or your intention for the next segment you are about to enter. Imagine your greeting of the staff or of the employer. See yourself as one who uplifts others, having a smile ready. Recognize that everyone you meet is not deliberate in their intending, but know that by your deliberate intending, you will be in control of your life experience, and you will not be swept up by their confusion or by their intent or influence. I gotta stop. There's one little paragraph left, but before I do that paragraph, I gotta say, I mentioned earlier, we did this meeting earlier today, and I went to that meeting segment intending. I intended that people were going to come and they were going to arrive there and be in a good frame of mind. They were going to be positively oriented. They were going to have smiles on at least some of their faces. They were going to be feeling good. They were going to feel relaxed because, basically their work day is over. When we do a meeting, they've already done their work for the day. So this is a time to kind of sit back. They'd be, kind of chatting with each other and just enjoying each other's company. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. And that's noteworthy because we've had a number of tensions lately, and all those tensions not only weren't there, but the people who had been experiencing the tensions during the meeting, in the course of the meeting, were talking to each other and pointing to each other to make points about, whatever the particular topic of the conversation was, saying good things about that other person. And I'm thinking, this is cool. I like this. This segment intending thing just took a meeting that could have gone either way and turned it into a wonderful meeting. I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah, really good. So the last paragraph says, as you are moving through a day of segment intending, you will feel the power and the momentum of your intentions building. And you will find yourself feeling gloriously invincible. Well, I can't say I feel invincible yet, but I certainly feel empowered. And as you are seeing yourself again and again in creative control of your own life experience, you will feel as if there is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have. I am so looking forward to getting there. And I know I'm partway there. I'm already feeling it to a degree. But if what they're saying is true, that you get to the point where you're feeling invincible, where you're feeling like there is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have, cool, sign me up. I'm ready. Let's go. Because I know this is the right direction. I like this. I like it.
Well, it's really cool that we've read what we have because it has already impacted me in such a powerful way. I have new ideas. And one of them is that I have been a intender. I've loved to have intentions. So, I've been doing this for a long time. Maybe not in the prescribed way that they're talking about where you do it segment by segment, but I have always believed in positive and powerful intentions. And so when I know I'm going to do an event or have a meeting or have a phone call, that is significant to me, I will set an intention for it. And I'll kind of bathe it in juicy words and how I really want to feel. So in a sense, I'm doing what they're suggesting. It's just that I'm not doing it consistently over the course of the entire day. I'm kind of picking and choosing what I consider significant events or moments. But the idea that just occurred to me when you read this last section is if I were to up my game from setting specific intentions on specific events and start to do that more often on things that I would consider a mundane event, like driving to me is a mundane event, or, getting dressed in the morning, brushing teeth, washing face, getting dressed, that feels like a mundane event. But if I were to do that more often on more events, eventually I would have paved my entire day, every day of my life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a interesting consideration that I hadn't really thought about before.
Well, that's kind of what I've been working on semi-deliberately. By semi-deliberately, I mean I find more and more times during the day to segment intend. I'm still not doing it throughout the day, but I'm certainly doing it a lot more than when I first started, a lot more consistently. And indeed, I mentioned just a few minutes ago how Louise actually just got home, and she said to me before I left the office earlier today, well, as soon as the podcast is ready, be ready to go. I want chicken wings tonight. So I know exactly where we're going. And after what we've talked about here, I promise you, I don't actually separate it as two separate segments. I consider the driving to and having the dinner to be all part of the same segment. And you can really break it up any way you want to. That's the way I'm breaking it up. So I'm going to kind of blur the boundary a little bit. As we're driving there, I'm going to be segment intending the entire way for this is going to be a great meal. This is going to be really delicious. And I have to admit, the wings that they do are really good. I'm not really a buffalo wings person. I don't like that kind of sauce or anything like that. But the wings we get, they're teriyaki chicken wings. And it's really good, very, very tasty. And they make them what they call dirty, which means that they double dip them. They treat them twice. So they're really just thick with the stuff. And boy, you bite into a couple of these wings and, oh, geez, it's heavenly. Well, I'm thinking now with all this segment intending we've been doing here, if I can segment intend going on there, by the time we get sat down at the table and have the wings in front of us, that first bite of wing is going to be absolutely delicious with all the segment intending I'm going to be doing.
Well, I realize one of the segments of my day that happens multiple times a day is because I live in a 2-story house, I go up and down my stairs a lot. And I do have an awareness that when I'm coming up, when I come to the last 2 stairs, I slow down my pace because I normally I don't race up my stairs, but I go at a pretty good clip. And if I continued this is my bizarre thinking, if I continued that same level of enthusiasm as I'm going up my stairs, then when I get to the top, it's like I'll have so much extra energy, I'll run into the wall that's right in front of the top of the stairs.
Okay.
So I kind of slow down. But I also noticed that when I slow down, I kind of don't like how that feels. I like the feeling of the energetic run up my stairs. And so what occurred to me is, I go up and down my stairs a lot. I wonder what kind of segment intending I can come up with so that going up and down the stairs, I don't know, does more for me. More than just it's a to and from,
Sure.
but that my body is actually refreshed and that this level of movement that I have during my going up and down the stairs is maybe escalated to a pace that my body actually gets a little bit of workout,
Oh, yeah.
you know? So
Absolutely.
I don't know, but that's a segment that it dawned on me. I do that one multiple times a day.
Well, I've been talking lately, last few months, about the knee issues that I've been having and how I've been healing my knee and making a lot of progress pretty quick compared to what you're supposed to be able to do with a ligament issue, which is what I've had. Well, stairs are one of the things I've been dealing with. When your knees are really hurting and you're feeling stiff because you got inflammation and so forth, navigating stairs can be a major, major event. I mean, you're doing one step at a time and every step hurts and so forth. Well, now I've gotten to the point where walking up and down stairs doesn't hurt at all. I even told that story a few weeks ago. Well, each time that I got to stairs, I was segment intending. I was intending I was going to be a little bit better. It was going to be a little bit easier. It was going to be, I kept telling more and more of a downstream type story that felt better. Now, I should say today, I was at the meeting. The meeting was on the second floor of this building. Well, I had to go up the stairs and I had to go down the stairs. When I went up the stairs, I didn't even segment intend. I just said, I'm going to go up the stairs. And I went boom, 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 right up the stairs real fast. And when I was coming down the stairs, I did do a segment intention. Like, I want to basically run down the stairs. And I almost did. The only thing that held me back is I've been dealing with these issues. And so my knees still don't feel completely stable to me. They aren't necessarily hurting. I'm not sure about the stability of it, the structural stability. So I still didn't run down the stairs. But I did move down the stairs quicker than I had in months. Segment intending even works when you're ailing. It works great.
Wow. Wonder how many other places we can segment intend that we haven't considered before.
That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, literally, I really do believe that we're on the right track when we're saying we need to get ourselves to the point where we're segment intending our entire day, because all kinds of good things will happen when that happens. We can just see it already.
I have a sense that you don't have to do this for the rest of your life in order to feel good. But you do have to put in the time to set the intentions for each type of segment and do it with enough repetition that then law of attraction has momentum that will just keep it going.
Yeah, it becomes automatic after a while. You're right. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it becomes so automatic that it's almost like the segment intention is there and you didn't even have to do it. You just did it. Kind of like starting, okay, there it is. Which is very cool.
That's very cool.
It is.
And, one of the things I enjoy about, reading this book is I read this book a long time ago, and I purposely don't pre-read it right before we do the show because I kind of like to be surprised and just kind of have the insight flow spontaneously rather than premeditatively. Mm-hmm. And I feel like today's show has been filled with so much of that for me because I feel like I've gotten so many really cool insights and inspiration for how to move forward. It's like, ooh, this is all good stuff.
Well, hang on to that because we're out of time. Let's pick it up again tomorrow. I hope you're going to be here for tomorrow.
I will be.
We hope that you join us as well tomorrow here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye for now.